Hi everyone, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. In this video, we're going to learn the 2 to 5 player game, Specter Ops, designed by Emerson Matsuuchi and published by Nazca and Plaid Hat Games. Here, you'll either be playing as an ARC agent, secretly infiltrating an advanced Raxon global facility in an attempt to sabotage their program, or you'll be one of the hunters, who will be using their skills, special abilities, and player deduction to try to locate and eliminate that agent. So join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. First, you unfold the game board, and you'll notice that each playable space has its own unique letter-number code. Columns are marked A, B, C, D alphabetically, and rows are marked 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. For example, this is the vehicle token, and it starts the game on position K17. This tile represents the interior of the vehicle, and it should be placed nearby. There are some changes to the rules when you have 4 or 5 players, and I'll go over those at the end of this video. For now, I'm going to set up for a 2 or 3 player game. Decide which player will be the ARC agent and give them the pad of movement sheets and a pencil. They should then record their name here. The pad shows the entire game board, but let's look closely in this area here. Several of the spaces are marked with a number 1 and a series of die faces. The agent should roll one of the included dice and then circle the space matching the value that they rolled. Then on the game board, they place one of the double-sided mission objective tokens, blue side up, on the matching location. Then they roll a die for mission objective 2, 3, and 4, placing tokens on the board for each. So while every time you play the game, the general location of the objectives will be the same, their exact position will change. The agent player now secretly chooses and takes one of the 4 agent characters, placing it face down in front of themselves, and returning the rest of the agent characters unrevealed to the box. There are miniatures for each of the possible agent types, but they should all be left out so the hunters don't know which the player has chosen. The agent then takes all of the equipment cards and secretly chooses 3 of them to keep, placing them face down and returning the rest to the box. If a piece of equipment shows an agent pictured right here, then it may only be chosen if the player is that agent. The other players are the hunters. In a 3-player game, each of the 2 hunter players will choose and control a single player from among these 4 and take the matching miniature. If it's a 2-player game, then the hunter player will pick 2 of the characters and control them both. Either way, return the remaining hunters to the box. Hunters start the game on any space inside the vehicle. These cards are used in a 5-player game only, so they can be ignored at this time. The remaining tokens and dice can be placed nearby for use as needed. And that's the setup. Specter Ops takes place over a series of rounds that each begins with the agent secretly marking their movement here on this pad of paper. Now, although I'll sometimes have this space up, during an actual game, the agent should never let the hunters see what they've recorded until the very end of the game. We put out 4 different objectives. The agent needs to get to and activate 3 of them, and then escape the board on the north edge through one of the 3 marked exits. That's how they win the game. The hunters will use the technology of their vehicle, their special skills and abilities, and deductive reasoning in order to locate and eliminate the agent, winning the game for themselves and for their employers, Raxon Global. The agent begins the game on space N1, which is right here. Each turn, they will be able to move from 0 to 4 spaces, but they will not use a miniature on the board to show this. Instead, they plan their movement using the pad and then mark the code of the final space they move to next to the current turn. The agent may move in any direction, including diagonally, but may not move through a space occupied by a hunter or any space that does not have a coordinate code, like these impassable structures. The agent can, however, move around a hunter. So let's say the agent was on space J4. They could then move to J5, then to I6, over to H5, and then end on H4. Anytime an agent ends their movement visible to one of the hunters, they are seen. If this is the first time it has happened during a game, then the agent flips over their character card, revealing who they are. But either way, they take their matching miniature and then place it on their current space. So what can the hunters see? A hunter has line of sight in straight lines along the column and row of the space it is currently on, up to the first structure in each direction. So this hunter here could only see this space in this direction before it hits an obstacle. This compass that's on the map is also an obstacle, so the hunter could not see anything in front of it because the compass blocks it. Behind the hunter, it can see all of these spaces up to J7 before running into these columns. And in this direction, the hunter can see all the way until it reaches this blocking element. So that means if an agent ended its movement on this space, it would have to reveal itself as it can be seen by the hunter. Spaces that are adjacent to these dashed lines are defined as roads, and they're always 2 spaces wide. Whether in a car or not, a hunter can see the full width of the road it is currently on, not just the single row or columns that it normally sees. So if the agent ended its turn on this space, it could be seen by this hunter, which is currently inside of the car, and so it would have to reveal itself. Now, if an agent moves through spaces that would be visible to a hunter, but doesn't end on one, they instead place a last seen token on the last space where they would have been visible. Now, let's say that our agent was hiding in this location, and on its turn, it moved through these spaces, arriving here. Now, our hunter is on the road, and that means it would have caught a glimpse of the agent on both of these spaces. But this is the last space the agent was in before it disappeared out of sight. So this is where the agent would place the last seen token. Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt, but when this video was first recorded, an important rule was missed. And I just want to clarify that right now. Anytime you would place the last seen token on the board, you also place the agent's figure on top of that token. So if this was the first time the agent was spotted, their identity has now been revealed and they should flip their agent sheet over. So please keep this correction in mind as you watch the rest of the instructional video, and anytime you see me put the last seen token on the board, just know that the agent figure should also be put on top of it. And that token will stay there until the agent is last seen somewhere else. If the agent should become fully visible, then you remove the last seen token from the board. If the agent starts its turn fully visible, but moves out of sight, then the agent places the last seen token once again where they were last seen. Before or after moving, as the agent, you may also use one of the equipment cards that you chose during the setup. The equipment will indicate how to use it, including whether or not it needs to be revealed to activate its effect. But either way, write down the initials of the item beside the turn in which it was used. These symbols are called charges, and they indicate how many times a piece of equipment may be used during the game. And if the effect requires the use of a token, take it from the general supply. If the agent starts its turn on any space adjacent to an objective, then it may flip the objective over to show that it has been completed and then take their turn as normal. It should also be noted that each agent has its own special ability. For example, Blue Jay here can activate an objective from up to 2 spaces away. Once the agent has flipped over any 3 of the 4 objectives, they must escape by ending their turn on one of the marked escape points, either A3, N1, or W3. And again, they just have to land on the space. They don't need to spend another point to exit. But this also means that a hunter can block the exit by going to that space. However, if the agent escapes, they win the game. But they have to hurry. If they don't complete the objectives and escape the facility by the end of turn 40, they lose the game. Once the agent player has completed their turn, each of the hunter characters takes a turn in the order of their choosing, but a hunter must fully complete their turn before the next hunter goes. And the hunters can also change the order that they act in from round to round. But once all of the hunters have taken their turns, then the next round begins, starting again with the agent. On your turn, as a hunter, you may move up to 4 spaces just like the agent, except that you may move through other hunters or even share the same space as them. Of course, the models won't quite fit, so instead you may temporarily replace one of the models with their matching token and then place the other model on top. Now remember, both of the hunters begin the game inside of the vehicle. To exit, you place your model on any space adjacent to the vehicle token located on the board, and then your movement ends. But you can still attack, and we'll talk about attacking a little bit later. To enter the vehicle, you must move to its space directly, and then you can place your figure on the vehicle tile. This also ends your movement, and you can't attack while you're inside the car. Do note that only hunters may enter or drive the vehicle, but any figure can move onto its space or move through it. And the vehicle does not block line of sight or affect the hunter's line of sight while they're inside of it. And while in the vehicle, hunters can drive it along the road spaces, moving all of the hunters it contains. The vehicle has 10 points of movement that can be shared by all of the hunters during the round. So for example, at the start of the turn, this hunter could drive the vehicle 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll notice you can drive it diagonally, and then exit the vehicle. Then the next hunter can drive the vehicle up to its remaining 6 spaces of movement. While the hunter is moving, if its line of sight crosses where an agent is hiding, the agent doesn't have to declare anything, even if the hunter moves directly through the agent's space. I like to think of it as if the agent is propped up on the ceiling, quietly looking down while the hunter passes by underneath. Now, once the hunter has stopped moving, then you need to check its line of sight. If the agent can't be seen, the agent says clear. Otherwise, the agent must put their model on the board, and then, assuming the hunter is not inside of the vehicle, the hunter can attack. To attack, count the number of spaces from the hunter to the agent, in this case 4, and then roll a single die. If the result is equal to or greater than that number, as we have here, you've hit the agent. Otherwise, you miss. If you roll a 6, you actually get to roll a second die and add its value to the result. And if you were to roll another 6, well, re-roll one of the other dice and add that value to the previous result. What this means is that even if your target is more than 6 spaces away, there's always a chance that you can hit them. However, if you roll a 1 as your first result, it's always an automatic miss. If the hunter ends its movement on the same space as the agent, well, first of all, they both won't fit, so replace the agent with its token, and then you don't have to roll the die. It's an automatic hit. Each time the agent is hit, they lose a hit point by crossing off one of these 4 boxes. Once all of them have been crossed off, the agent has been eliminated and the hunters win. Unless the agent chose the orangutan character, which has toughness, giving it an additional 2 hit points, meaning this agent will have to be hit 6 times in order for the hunters to win. If a hunter starts its turn inside of the vehicle, instead of moving the car, they can activate its built-in motion detector. Then the agent has to indicate where they are currently located using compass directions, which are shown here, relative to the car's current position. So if they're in the exact column or row of the vehicle, then they would declare either north, east, south, or west. If they're in some other location, they declare a combination. So if the agent was here, the agent would say northeast, or here they would say southwest. But if the agent moved 2 or fewer spaces on their last turn, they don't declare anything. They didn't create enough movement to trigger the motion detector. Although I won't be going over all of the equipment that an agent could use, let's take a quick look at the Holo Decoy. When the agent uses this item, they don't reveal or give any indication that they've used it. They just mark its initials along with their updated location on the movement sheet. Then they place the last seen token and their figure within 4 spaces of where they are actually located. So if the agent was hiding here and on their turn they moved to this space and used the Holo Decoy, they could then place the last seen token up to 4 spaces away. Let's say they put it right here. Now this is going to really confuse the hunters, because it appears that the agent darted across the street and then ran to this area of the board, but we know the agent is actually right here. Now don't forget the rules for last seen tokens. If you cross a hunter's line of sight in more than one place, You only place the last seen token where you were last seen. So if instead they had started their turn here and then moved to that other space using the Holo Decoy, they technically would have been last seen here, but the Holo Decoy happens afterwards, and so the agent would only be required to place the token here, not giving away that they actually went in a different direction. Some effects can cause a hunter to be stunned. If this occurs, place a stun marker on that figure's card, or as I like to do, by its base. While stunned, the hunter may not attack and can only move up to 2 spaces. At the end of its turn, remove the stun marker, and also note hunters inside of the vehicle cannot be stunned. That's actually all of the rules to Specter Ops, unless you have more players. In a 4-player game, there's a couple of adjustments. First of all, that extra player will become a hunter, so they should choose a character and put its figure inside of the vehicle. The vehicle also starts a little farther back here on space K23. The agent also receives an additional exit point here at H1, which you can mark with this token. They also gain these 2 additional hit points specifically indicated for a 4-player game and collect 5 equipment instead of just 3. In a 4-player game, the agent will secretly roll for the locations of the 4 objectives, marking them on their pad as usual, but not placing tokens on the board. Now, only once a mission is completed does the agent place a token red side up on the objective's location. With 5 players, the objectives are treated the same way as with a 4-player game. The vehicle also starts on space K23, and there is an additional escape point at H1. However, the agent does not get the extra equipment or hit points. Instead, there will be 4 hunters, but one of them is a traitor, secretly working with the agent. The agent collects these role cards and specifically chooses one to secretly give to each of the hunters. The hunters may not reveal their role, but the one given the red arc symbol is the traitor. Let's pretend for a moment that this hunter is actually the traitor. And since the agent and traitor know who each other are, they can secretly work together. Because the agent is not required to place their figure or last seen markers when crossing or ending up in the traitor's path. So in this case, let's pretend that the agent is in this space. It doesn't have to reveal itself to the other hunters. Now that said, should the agent become visible to one of the actual hunters and at the same time was clearly in the line of sight of the traitor, well, it becomes pretty obvious who the traitor is. At this point, the traitor collects a movement sheet of their own and then moves their figure even if they already moved this round as the hunter. Assuming that this puts their figure out of sight of the actual hunters, then they collect their own last seen token, which they place on the board in the appropriate space. Either way, the traitor now becomes a second agent and secretly chooses one of the remaining characters and collects 2 equipment cards. Their agent will also have 4 hit points. Instead of waiting to be found out, the traitor can skip their turn as a hunter to voluntarily reveal themselves. But no matter how their true nature is uncovered, they will then follow all of the same rules as an agent, except that they cannot complete objectives. Only the original agent can do that. Also, if the hunters suspect who the traitor may be, by majority vote at the beginning of the hunter's player's turn, they may revoke the access of one of the hunters to the vehicle. If either agent loses all of its hit points, the hunters immediately win. Otherwise, the agents win by completing 3 of the 4 objectives and then both of them escaping, or if the traitor is never revealed, only the original agent needs to escape. And that's everything you need to know to play Specter Ops. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. And I hope you'll stick around because in future episodes we're going to do a full playthrough of this game so you can see exactly how it works and you'll be able to join me as a fellow hunter tracking down my son Luke who will be playing the agent. You'll even have a chance to vote on which of the hunters the viewers will represent. But until the next episode, thanks for watching.